Hey, we're live now, buddy.
We are live. We are live. But hey, you know what, Adam? Before we
Mhm.
hit the talkie talk, let's do this real quick.
Hey, welcome to the Seahawkers podcast. I am Adam Emmert. I'm joined today by Clinton Botter for this emergency pod. And sometimes emergencies are bad, sometimes they're good. Today's a good emergency, Clinton. We just found out some big news. Connor Williams signed to the Seattle Seahawks roster. We've heard the rumors for a while here. A couple of the other pods were coming out the last couple days saying it was imminent. And I was like, well, okay, let's not count our eggs before they're hatched. But here they are. Connor Williams is in the fold. Clinton, on a scale of 1 to 20 million, how excited are you for this Connor Williams news?
At least 12 million, at least there, Adam. And I got to tell the audience, when we have the emergency, like you said, sometimes it could be amazing, sometimes it could be frightful. I just get a little pensive when it's an emergency pod. So I got to get the emergency pod outfit on. It's the Chuck Knox hat. And I get my neck pillow, which is kind of like a Marty McFly little rafter thing, So if we're swimming out there with this emergency, I feel safe and sound, surrounded by my own bubble of Hawkra. But Adam, this is good, big news. Say goodbye to the palm trees. Say hello to the evergreens, and we're going to be saying hello to a center that is a Pro Bowl caliber, good in the pass game, fantastic in the run game, dude. How you feeling about that?
Yeah, that was an interesting part at looking at a little bit of the history of Connor Williams. And I'm going to admit straight up, like, I knew he was a player. I couldn't have told you that he was a center. I knew he was an offensive lineman. I didn't know a whole heck of a lot about his history until we started hearing his name linked to the Seahawks, and you start to look into it. And it's interesting to kind of see some of the differing opinions regarding his career to this point. A lot of people kind of bemoaned his performance as a guard when he was with the Cowboys. And according to PFF, he was slightly above average when it came to his time playing left guard. And then as he went to the Dolphins, transitioned to center. And that was really where he found his spot and had 2 terrific years with the Dolphins, although last year marred by injury. And I think when you're looking at his career, the couple things that kind of pop out is one, once he moved to center, he was real damn good. And that's exciting. Get me an interior offensive lineman any day of the week with a high ceiling. And I am jazzed about that. And the other thing being that kind of beset by penalties with his time at the Cowboys and by injuries. So a torn groin at one point, 2 different ACL tears. I haven't been able to find if that was same knee or 2 different knees, but some injury concerns there as well, which I wonder, Clinton, does that kind of factor into the contract that he was signed to? Because we're not talking a long-term deal here.
No, we're not talking long-term deal. Schefter tweets out there. So when Schefter says it, as long as it's not like the bread Schefter, man, then you know it's legit. And then everybody else, just piles on there. 1 year with incentives, he could earn up to $6 million. So we'll see what the impact on the base is. Regardless, we had the Schadol. We laid it out there, and we definitely improved at the center spot, which is absolutely huge. Adam, the bottom line is, I think everybody would have loved if you're going to go in on a guy like that. Yes, I think everybody would have loved a multi-year, at least a 2-year contract, of course. It's not so much beggars can't be choosers. I'm sure that was on the table. I'm sure they were going back and forth on that. But if I'm the agent, Drew Rosenhaus, right? Or if I'm Connor Williams himself, he wants to bet on himself. Going into right before his injury, he was gearing up to be like a $10 million, $11 million center. So top of the market center. So he takes a little bit of a quote unquote pay cut up to $6 million for the 1 year. And the thing, it's like, I don't mind the 1 year deal in the sense that, hey, if he's good for this year, awesome. And you just try and re-sign the guy. But obviously it's like, how ready is he? He's coming off of a late injury tear. It's not his first rodeo in terms of serious injuries. They say past the physical clearly. And if you listen to the agent, hey, amazing comeback story. And this is the best thing we've seen since Rocky Balboa. Fantastic. I'm here for all the comebacks. How ready is he really? And I think we'll find out pretty darn quick. Is we talking week 1 ready? Are we talking week 6 ready? That's going to be a huge variance and on the impact of this team, Adam.
Yeah, it's hard to know exactly where he's at in his rehab. Again, if you listen to Drew Rosenhaus, it's a miraculous
Yeah,
recovery. So
absolutely.
let's hope that Drew is telling the truth for maybe the first time in his life. That would be pretty cool. But look, obviously the Seahawks felt comfortable enough with his health situation and having him come in for the physical and knowing where he was at along that process. Now, again, to your point, whether that means week 1 or week 6 or week 8, hard telling, not knowing.
Right.
I'm sure we'll find out more here in the next week or so, but I find it the 1 year thing a little interesting, just in the sense of, do you think it was the player that was looking more at a short-term deal and kind of trying to Darrelle Revis this thing and maximize the amount of bites he has at the apple? Or do you think it was the Seahawks being like, all right, let's give this a year and see how the injuries hold up? Let's see if outside of Mike McDaniel's offense, are you still a Pro Bowl center? I mean, do you think it was the team that was more concerned and wanted to limit that length, or the player?
I'm going to choose door number 1, which was the player. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Number 1, he's only 27 years old still. So just a little bit about the man, right? So I'm sure most people listening live and who will watch it later at this point have heard about Connor Williams at least a few weeks ago. Like you said, understood he's a lineman. You start getting jazzed about him. You start looking him up. You're like, oh, this dude's actually quite a baller. So a little bit about the dude, right? 50th pick overall by the Cowboys, 1998, so 2018, 1998. Yeah, a while ago. Drafted with Okoye, but 2018, he's from University of Texas, so large pedigree school. And then you talked about the rest. Cowboys just did not need a center. Took a dude because he was obviously talented. Was okay to above average at guard. Goes to Miami, gets that second contract, kicks into center, which is what he prefers, and all of a sudden has 2 back-to-back bangers of a year, last year being his best of the 2 even before the injury. So with all that, I think this is just simply Darrelle Revis / just the guy betting on himself, because if you look at a guy like this, he can earn up to $6 million. So again, that's probably going to be, if I had to guess when the incentives come out, it's probably tied to games played. I would imagine that's going to be tied to, you play 12 games, you start whatever, throwing some numbers out there, right, for the sake of it, the exercise. You play 12, you earn 5. You play 15, you earn 6, something like that. It wouldn't shock me that it's really tied to how many games you're out there starting. And that, of course, will be determined by health and being football ready, as they call it, right? So I think the dude bet on himself, because if he is pitching to a top 5 center and you're the next man up, as we've seen with the quarterbacks, you're not only, like some of the quarterbacks like Tua and others, and Jordan Love, who's a good quarterback, but they just leap everybody else. They leap the Joe Burrows, they leap the Patrick Mahomeses, simply because they're next man up. So if he goes from 6 million, puts the chip down for 1 year, plays well, plays healthy for a year, dude's probably looking at $11 million payday and maybe getting 30 to 35 million for the next contract with say 25 guaranteed or 20 guaranteed. So that's my guess. The man's betting on himself. I can't blame the dude.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me. I would tend to agree with you there. And look, I think this is an interesting move from the Seahawks perspective as well.
Oh yeah.
Coach Mike is like, look, we're going after it this year. Like, and
Yeah.
this really does seem to kind of fit what John Schneider was saying in the offseason too, when people were asking him about, well, is this a rebuild and what's this going to look like with a new coaching staff and all that stuff? And he's like, no, we're not interested in rebuilds in any way, shape, or form. That was not
Right.
his jam. And this move is definitely one that falls into the category that proves that. I think it's great. Look, there's one of the things that about Schneider and McDonald here in their short tenure together that I really dig. And it's that they've
Balls.
really, what's that?
I said balls.
Balls. Yes. Yeah.
They
Definitely.
got some gumption, but continue.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to go back to your old quote that Sean brought up here for us, one of our little flockers. Yeah, if you're gonna
Yes.
be a bear, be a grizzly, right? So yes, idea being like they're going after it. And the thing is they're concentrating in an area that I harped on for years when it was Pete and John, and that's the
Mhm.
trenches. You look at the draft, top draft pick, first round pick, defensive tackle Byron Murphy, second round pick Christian Haynes, another lineman. Now they go out
UConn.
their big offseason acquisition here in terms of free agency. We're talking another offensive lineman and a guy that could be a difference maker. And when I'm thinking a little bit about winners and losers in this signing, there's a lot of winners. And one of them is Geno Smith. And I
Yeah.
think the other one is Ryan Grubb. Like, I think anytime that we can get more help up front for him and Scott Huff to mold into the image that they want to put out on the field, I think that's a good thing. I think they're going to need all the help they can get up front for that downfield passing attack that
Mhm.
seems to be where Grubb wants to go, at least at this point. And from what we're hearing, this could be a big boon to allowing that to happen.
For sure. I love that. And I think for me, you left one name off of that, like who it really could help out. Before I get to it, little teaser, as they call it, recommending for the folks that are out there. Maybe you're catching us for the first time ever, 11 years into the Seahawkers podcast. And maybe this is your first time, or it's your second time or third time, but you haven't subscribed yet. You haven't liked yet. So if you're watching it live, obviously we're all fired up. Like the video, subscribe, youtube.com/Seahawkers podcast. Lend the subscriptions. We're growing the Hawkra every single day. We'll be live at the Patriots game. I live pretty close, so I'll be fired up to see. Hopefully, maybe we get to see Connor Williams week 2. That'll be something special. But back to it, Adam. The dude that I think is kind of left out from your list, you said Geno and Grubb. Agree, check. Hey, good things come in threes, right? The magic of threes throughout humanity and art. So the other dude, do you remember we had a great podcast the other day on our ceilings and floors first episode? So part 1, we did 4 offensive players, and one of those players, you were like, okay, that guy's ceiling. And you asked me live, you said, what was Mostert's stats last year? And HM, you're like, what were their stats last year? And you were like, yeah, put those together. And that could be, who was it? Who are you talking about?
Oh, with talking about Kenneth Walker, I
That's
think,
right.
if I
Yeah.
remember right. I mean, we've done a few pods since then. It starts to get blurry. Yeah.
But that's it. You were talking about K9 and we were talking ceilings and floors. And there's a lot of gravity and like pull around K9 this year. There's a lot of talk about we want that guy on the field on third downs. Why? We want him in space. We want to get him good enough blocking, release the valve for Geno, K9 in space. Yeah, sounds great. In the run game, you go back and watch what the Dolphins are doing. It's quite similar in the run game to what Grubb is trying to do. It's a lot of motion. It's a lot of getting dancing bears, if you will, out in space and then sustaining their blocks. Okay, we did draft coverage. What was Christian Haynes really, really good at? Moving in space and squaring dudes up and staying on them. What is Charles Cross like calling card? It wasn't his brute strength. It wasn't just, I'm a wall back there. Nope. Dancing bear who could do the pulls and everything for the sweeps and everything else and the motions. So we're starting to compile, let's say, at least 3 of those 5 so far that really fit that mold of, I know it's not your favorite type of running the ball potentially. However, again, if you're going to go for it, this is the type of talent that they need, of dudes who could move really well in space, get to a spot and block on the move and block consistently on the move. I think K9, if this comes together and actually gels, I think K9 stands to benefit a lot. And maybe, definitely in the running game, but I think also in the passing game, the leak out game, the screen game, and it opens a new dimension for K9 too. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it's entirely possible. I mean, any type of upgrade to the offensive line is going to be a huge boon for Kenneth Walker. Look, he's been one of those dudes that has to deal with contact behind the line of scrimmage almost more than any other back in the league. And
Yeah. Oh,
anytime that you can
God,
keep
yeah.
him clean through that first wave of defenders, then it's electric from that point going forward. So seeing K9 in space, yes, that excites me very much. Now, you were talking about the Miami run game and kind of comparing it to Grubbs. And yeah, there's a lot of outside zone and trying to
Yeah.
stretch the edges. I mean, that's what he did in Washington, and that's what Mike McDaniel does down in Miami. So we'll see if that's the exact way that they go about it. I don't know, but that seems to kind of be the trend here. And yeah, Connor Williams, Haynes, and then Charles Cross, and then, a guy in Laken Tomlinson who's a dude, right? Like,
Mhm.
he's not the greatest player of all time at left guard. I mean, is he an upgrade over Damian Lewis? No. Is he a massive downgrade from Damian Lewis? I'm not totally sure.
I don't
I
think so.
I don't think so either. And then we also heard some random news coming off of ESPN's visit to training camp a couple days back that I want to say, who was it? I can't remember which reporter, but they had mentioned that they expect Abe Lucas back
Yeah.
week 1.
Yep.
And you get that crew together, and all of a sudden, I'm a lot more excited about this offense.
Yeah.
And look, there's a couple other winners and losers throughout this. And Corey had a great comment here.
Nice.
Keeps them away from San Francisco too. So yes, the San Francisco 49ers are losers because of this. And I really enjoy saying that. That's fun. Uh,
Me too.
also, obviously, one of the losers here is Olu, because
Yep.
you would have thought that he might have been able to take advantage of this opportunity to just take this job by the reins and
Yeah.
make it his. But we heard Mike McDonald in his presser not but a couple days ago, Clinton, be like, I'm not sure that we're settled on our 5.
Yeah, he basically said we don't have our 5, which took me aback. I was like, "Huh, get back, JoJo." I was like, "Really?" He did not mince words. He's like, "Yeah, I don't think we found our 5 yet." And sure as you know what, they didn't find their 5. They were on the hunt here. Maybe he knew a little bit at that point that this was more imminent than it seemed anyway. And of course, he also might be hinting at what you just said, that hey, Lucas is right there, and that was Jeremy Fowler. So
That's
ESPN
what it was.
Jeremy
Yes.
Fowler, right? But that's a good dude. Those are
Yeah.
the Schefters of the world, Fowlers. Those guys are plugged in. And for anybody who missed what Adam said or didn't hear it first time from Jeremy Fowler, was basically like, hey, Abe does need more time, but they expect him to be ready for the season. Essentially, that's how it read. So does that mean ready for week 1? Does that mean you have a couple of weeks to get, again, football ready and get that football strength? Don't know. Hard telling, like not knowing, as you would say, Adam. But that's a huge difference than a couple of weeks ago being McDonald being like, yeah, it's taking longer, and we're a little frustrated. Essentially, it takes the time it takes. So the line reformation from, let's say, 2 years ago and even last season to right now, but really bring it back 2 years ago before the Cross and Lucas draft to now, it absolutely can be night and day. Now, it's not, but and the nice part too now is like it doesn't feel like an inside straight that we got to pull 2 on the river while we're pot committed. You know what I mean? Like we go in with a freaking 7-2 offsuit and we're like, yeah, all in, pot committed, and we got to pull out a miracle. Now there's a logical path to having at least an average to above average offensive line. It's like if a couple of things go right, Connor Williams plays 70% of the year. Great. Abe Lucas comes back and he's healthy for 50 to 60% of the year, like full health. Awesome. George Fant plays admirably. Cool. Charles Cross takes the step forward that is being reported on, that this dude looks like a different guy, even more determined, even bigger, has added strength, still as quick as he's ever been. Cool. Laken Tomlinson just does Laken Tomlinson things. Cool. Christian Haynes has a good rookie season. All those things are not like, all right, we need a 42-year-old to play like he did a decade ago.
Yeah.
Because that's pulling an inside straight, and that's what it's been like forever. And this is just stacked in such a more sensible way. And this is why we get giddy about this, right? So it's seemingly we're building a really young, solid foundation. And that's got me, dude, so fired up. You did mention Olu, just to peel it back to him for a second. Hopefully it's one of those things that's like motivating and not deflating. If it's like, hey, maybe he gets a chance to still start the first 3 games of this season before Connor's fully healthy. All right, young man, shut your coach up. Go show them that they made a mistake, that they didn't need to make this move. So I hope it's more of the motivating thing. Last thing I'll say about that, I'll pass it back to you in a sec, is look, Mike McDonald knows Olu very well, so it's not like he doesn't have a history with the guy too. So that's the part to me that it just adds up, that between Grubb and McDonald, they said, yeah, We can do better. There's a dude who makes us clearly better. John, cut the check. Let's freaking go for this.
Yeah. And look, I don't know about inside straights, outside straights, rivers, creeks, whatever. I don't know jack about freaking poker, but it sounded good, whatever you were saying there. But yes, it does seem like a clear path to a more than functional offensive line. And really, the most important part about it is that you're anchored in the middle by a dude with a full on beard that
There it is.
Eaglet is good to, point out there. Offensive linemen with full beards, I feel like are more intimidating, and that's super cool. But I actually do think that if Lucas is ready to go week one and Haynes takes a hold of that right guard spot, which he traditionally played in college. Like that was his spot, right? Didn't play much outside of there. You plug Williams in at center, Lincoln Tomlinson being the weakest link, hopefully not goodbye, but just the weakest link.
Right.
And then Charles Cross taking the leap that everybody is saying that he has in training camp. I'd go out on a limb and say, I think this is the best offensive line in the division. And you look at the Cardinals still in the process of rebuilding. I know they've spent some draft capital
Sure,
on,
but they're not there yet.
they're not there yet. The 49ers, honestly, their offensive line, especially the right side, is a bit of a mess
Yeah,
coming into this year.
agree.
So that will be interesting to see. And then the Rams have reinvested in their offensive line and a few young guys. And, they played decently last year. So, be right there neck and neck with the Rams. And to me, that's an exciting proposition because look, if you're going to get past the Niners, you got to deal with that defensive front. Even though they've lost some talent there, there's still a lot of talent there.
Oh
So
yeah, that's exactly, you're saying it exactly right. I do, and look, the best offensive lineman likely in the world is holding out. Cool. Keep on holding out. Like the 49ers are, there's you called it after the Super Bowl loss, by the way, for any Niners fans out there, you lost, bunch of losers. Glorious. I just love an overtime loss where your coach didn't know the rules. He didn't know the rules. What an idiot. What a buffoon. So with all that, they're a bit of a mess right now. They're injured. They've got tumults. They've got Ayuk wanting to leave the building. They got the all-world left tackle who is just now, hey, I'm under contract, but you better pay me more money, basically holding them ransom. Just like, hey, I deserve more, pay me more. And then they got injuries. CMC, bad calf strain. He's out the entirety of preseason. So if you're out the entirety of the preseason, there's no guarantee with a calf injury that you are good to go week one. Ask Joe Burrow about that. And Joe Burrow's not a running back. He's suffered that way. Elijah Mitchell, he's got a hamstring injury. Pearsall just re-injured his shoulder. He's out for a little bit of time again. The team is in some disarray. You mentioned the Rams. The Rams are banged up across the board early on the line also. Now it's early. I do still think, given health, if they just get back to par, I would give the Rams the one spot until we could go prove it. And we need to prove it. We've put the pieces on the board very nicely. They've got to gel. They've got to come together in a brand new offense, which you've been talking about a lot, right, Adam? In a brand new offense, in a system that is not exactly NFL proven, because it's just not. And it doesn't matter how you want to shake it. You could think Grubb is the second coming. It's fine. You could think all those things, and we could hope for all those things collectively. You still got to prove it in the NFL. And until it all kind of comes together and they prove it, I'm going to give the Rams the nod, who brought in a guy like Kyron Williams last year and behind a pretty good line, absolutely tore a new one to most of the NFL, including teams like the Ravens last year.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And look, there's a possibility that Grubb's offense is gangbusters. Like it very well could be that way. And so let's assume that we're going to get these guys on the field in terms of Lucas along with Williams, and the health all comes together and we're looking at that group that we're excited about here. I think that this sort of signing is one of those force multiplier type signings, because when Geno Smith isn't the most pressured quarterback in the freaking league, he's dynamite.
Yes.
He's so good. And if we could just go from like middling or below average, as we have been the last few years, and I mean, it kind of fills into Carly's comment here.
Nice.
Pete didn't really invest in the trenches. So here we go. They're investing in the trenches. And I think that this could do so much for Geno going forward in this year and really help enhance his production and let Ryan Grubb get to the play calls that he wants to get to try to bring this vision to life.
Yeah, that's perfectly said. You and Car with the love a good F-bomb within the comments section, because you don't expect it and boom, there it is, right? So
Yeah.
hey, it's a very exciting signing. This gives us the fizz, as we've been talking about, for all the right reasons. I don't know if it's like fell into our lap, but the fact that we had the money available and a guy of this caliber gets signed this late doesn't happen that often. And a position like center, they just don't grow on trees. They don't fall off trees. Teams tend to lock them up like, hey, we got a good one. You're going nowhere. Like, hey, like Kelsey. Speaking of bearded centers with Jason Kelsey, maybe that's something, Adam. Maybe the bearded Jason Kelsey, who's going to be a first bout Hall of Famer, the Eagle, of course, who just retired. Maybe his mojo, his moxie, everything he has with that aura of his, it's got to go somewhere in the universe to another center with a full beard. Am I onto anything here?
It's possible. I'm not exactly sure of the roster of centers across the league and how many sport facial hair and which ones don't. But Connor Williams doesn't need Kelsey's mojo, to be clear. I mean, he has been that dude the last 2 years in Miami and a guy that should be talked about in the upper tier of centers. And look, the only thing that would make me more excited about this signing is if he starts week 1, looks great. By week 14, he remains healthy, looks awesome. And we get announced that they've signed him to a long-term extension and we have some stability at the position since, Unger going to Britt and then the revolving door. And that would be extremely exciting to me. And it's a position near and dear to my heart. Before everybody else grew in high school and I was still a little guy, I played tackle football and I played center. And it was awesome. I really think that it is a completely underrated position, and having a dude with that kind of experience that can relay all the line calls, get him into the right protections, take that off of Geno's plate, and then be damn good in the run game, let alone the pass game. Like, he's very good in the pass game, but he's damn good in the run game. And I think that's the thing that just gets me over the moon on this.
So I've got a proposition for you. I think it's one you're going to say yes to. All right.
Okay.
So how about this? If and when we make the playoffs this year and Connor Williams is healthy and starting as center, you do the NHL thing where you don't shave your beard, like playoff beard style, right? So that's step one. You do NHL beard, your beard stays until it's over, right? One way or the other. Then after we're hosting Lombardi, you dress up some way like Jason Kelsey did at that parade, and me, you, Brandon, Phil, Wilson, and all the flockers get down to downtown Seattle and celebrate bringing another Lombardi back to Seattle with you in full beard regala. What do you think?
Look, man, I'll dress up as Jason Kelsey if we win a title. I'll dress up as Rue freaking Paul and walk down the middle of Seattle if that's what we need to do to get a championship, man. That would be freaking awesome. Now, whether or not that's the ceiling of this team, I don't know. Most likely not. But boy, we are better today than we were yesterday.
Very good. And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.